I'm a veteran, having served in the United States Marine Corps, and I'm also a Christian, which means that not only do I know people who claim to have seen UFOs, I also try to explain what they saw through the lens of my faith. Now, I've seen some crazy things, things I can easily explain, but also things that are paranormal, but still have an explanation. For example, when I was younger, I took part in a restoration of an old church. It had been sitting unused for years and had fallen into disrepair. It was known that there had been a group of people who had used the building as a shelter, and both used and sold drugs there earlier that year. There were 5 or 6 of us working in the sanctuary when suddenly the carpet began tearing from the main doors, moving towards the altar area. It was quick and probably took less than 5 seconds to travel the entire length of the sanctuary. Once it reached the first pew closest to the altar, the carpet stopped being torn and the piano, which was off to the side about 20 feet away, made a horrendous noise. We found out later that all the piano wire had been snapped. Being quite young when this happened, it naturally freaked me out. The pastor of the church I attended at the time, not the one being renovated, made a statement that following weekend during the service and confirmed that he and the church elders had prayed over the structure, and it was fine to enter into and continue our renovations. The pastor told the congregation that the demon that was in the building was now gone. That said, my parents refused to let me go back. But this event stuck with me, and it's something I will never forget. It also made me have a very open mind, which not only helped me keep my faith through low points in my life, but it also helped me when I chose to leave that denomination, which was very conservative and extremely strict in many ways. I won't go into the denomination I follow now as it's not relevant. What is relevant is that each of us view the events of this world through the lens of the Bible. Over the past few years, an uptick in UFO, or as they are called now, UAP activity has been taking place. Videos of strange craft or lights have been recorded since people could make recordings, and before that, people wrote of strange lights or shapes in the sky which they couldn't explain. In Ezekiel 10 it is written, "Then I looked, and behold, on the expanse that was over the heads of the cherubim there appeared above them something like a sapphire, in appearance like a throne. And he said to the man clothed in linen, Go in among the whirling wheels underneath the cherubim. Fill your hands with burning coals from between the cherubim, and scatter them over the city." I've got some images on screen to help you visualize what he's saying. When people tell me they see UFOs, the first thing that comes to mind is Ezekiel. The second thing that comes to mind is Luke chapter 1, starting in verse 26. In the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. And the virgin's name was Mary. And he came to her and said, Greetings, O favored one, the Lord is with you. But she was greatly troubled at the saying, and tried to discern what sort of greeting this might be. And the angel said to her, Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. Mary is immediately scared to death, and so Gabriel says, Do not be afraid. Now, it's shown throughout the Bible that angels can and do appear to people in the form of humans. But as we saw in Ezekiel, they can also appear, not as human, as something else. Here in the United States, we have a long history of both the paranormal and the otherwise unexplainable, specifically with regards to UFOs. People see or record something that justifies categorization. There's something about the object, either in terms of the way it changes shape, or there are instances where one will split apart and then reassemble. Things like this that just don't seem to fit any of the other templates. So there are anomalies when you start talking in those terms about something you visually see yet can't explain. For some people, they are inherently drawn to the spiritual world. Then you have people who experience something entirely different. These people claim to have been abducted by entities, aliens, forces, something. Now, the whole topic of UFOs is really deep and expansive. I'm not focusing on that necessarily. I am just going to focus on the abductions. Some of the common themes among the stories of abductees, specifically for those who saw something while driving and then later was abducted, is that their vehicle was disabled. Then they got out to investigate, and they were taken, only to wake up near their vehicle or in the driver's seat hours later. Del Rose, who is currently working on their PhD, wrote a published article titled Alienation and Aliens, Comparative Study of Narratives of Abduction in Historical African and UFO Experiences. In it, he claims that for nearly all of those abducted undergo invasive physical and mental examinations. Abductees often describe medical experiments or probing, while enslaved individuals were subjected to physical inspections to assess their value as slaves. Additionally, the sense of being overpowered and rendered helpless is a common theme in both types of stories. The experience of being examined contributes to a sense of violation and dehumanization in both cases. UFO abduction stories often include telepathic communication or direct interactions between the abductees and their captors. Regardless of the experience, which is often similar among abductees, a majority of people leave the experience with measurable PTSD. This is verifiable and diagnosable while meeting with a psychologist. Finally, among multiple researchers, there is a consensus that calling out the name of Jesus, regardless of language spoken, is enough to interrupt the encounter and prevent an abduction. So, what's actually going on here? I believe the last bit of information is key here. People, specifically people who have a non existent or limited relationship with Jesus, either by choice or upbringing, are having encounters with either demonic entities or angels that have aligned themselves with Satan. If you have watched my Nephilim video, you'll understand why I make the distinction between angels and demons. Now, I'm not suggesting that these individuals are being taken to a spaceship or anything like that. Maybe something like that is actually happening, but I don't think it is. This is something I would call direct demonization or negative spiritualization, where people have an experience where there is some sort of spiritual event or something done to them by a spiritual being, and then this is the way they process it, or the way they attempt to process it. Imagine a higher dimensional being interacting with you. Your brain might have trouble processing it. If they physically contacted you, your body may also have trouble processing what is happening. And whatever is going on, people are having similar experiences. Now, as someone with a degree in psychology, I'm currently working on my doctorate. The consistency in cases of PTSD is alarming to me. This is a measurable metric upon which we can confidently state that there was something which took place. The fact that people can call upon the name of Jesus and the event immediately ends is evidence of this, in my opinion. There are hundreds of these sorts of cases where a victim does state the name of Jesus deliberately, and not only does the incident stop, but it never repeats. That tells me that there's a clear demonic element to what's going on. What's interesting to me also is that in the Garden of Eden, we have the serpent. Satan telling Eve she'll be like the gods if she eats the fruit. He's essentially telling her she'll be in a higher plane of existence or have unusual knowledge. Satan is telling humans they will be enlightened if they do this thing. But for a lot of the abductees, they are told they are special and they need to pass on a message to save humanity, or that if they do something, they can reach a higher level of enlightenment. It just sounds all too familiar with the Eden story, which again reinforces my belief that these encounters are satanic, demonic, or both. The story is now repackaged into a technological wrapper. But what about the physical examinations? It's curious to be sure, but I wonder if, and this is speculation because there is no way to be certain, I wonder if the satanic angels are once again attempting to procreate as they did in Genesis 6. Perhaps they are unable to do it in whatever way they had done it previously. I don't know. And this is speculation. Paul warns of evil angels disguising themselves in 2 Corinthians 11 verse 14 and 15. And no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is no surprise if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their deeds. In this way, it's interesting that we see so many unknown objects in the sky and our atmosphere that are lights. Additionally, people report being told, as I stated earlier, that they need to save humanity or that the entities are there to save humanity in some way. This is another way they are disguising themselves in light. I wrap this up. I want to mention Ephesians 6 verse 12. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. This passage highlights that the battles we face are not merely physical or psychological, but deeply spiritual. This aligns with the experiences of many who report alien abductions, as they often describe encounters that go beyond the physical realm. Experiences that involve a sense of paralysis, telepathic communication, and other phenomena that are difficult to explain through natural means. The verse suggests that these experiences could be manifestations of spiritual forces of evil, implying that what abductees are encountering are not be extraterrestrial beings, but rather satanic and demonic entities masquerading as aliens. The verse also speaks of the schemes of the devil, indicating that these spiritual forces are involved in complex and deceptive tactics designed to mislead and harm humanity. If we consider the possibility that alien abductions are one such scheme, it could mean that these experiences are part of a broader strategy by these spiritual forces to confuse, frighten, and ultimately control those who are abducted. By presenting themselves as beings from another world, these entities may be attempting to divert people's attention away from God and toward a false narrative that denies the existence of spiritual truth. Finally, remember this. In verse 13 it reads, "Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm." I want to suggest to you in closing that what we are seeing is a resurgence of the conditions prior to the flood as a sign that we are approaching the return of Jesus. We have hope in Jesus, and when we wear biblical truth as our armor, we can withstand these evils. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing, and if you enjoy this content, hit the like button to let me know. God bless.